This is 80s Reboot Overdrive, and I am your host, Dave. And you continue to be the wonderful 80s Reboot Overdrive listener that you are. I appreciate you. We are in the midst of this series, and it's once again, it's the royal we. I've got to stop doing that. I am in the middle of this thing. So really what I'm doing is what am I doing? I'm recording a podcast. Huh. Yeah, I am, aren't I? Weird. No, actually I know what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm recording the 1987 Saturday Morning Cartoon podcast. So, I've got just a bunch of random stuff to talk about. I've got like no really big game plan, but I wrote down some stuff here on a piece of paper that I wanted to, I don't know, just share with you. Some stuff that I'm kind of like either listening to or watching, or I've got a story about a desk that I wanted to share with you. But you know, we're going to build it all around the Saturday morning cartoon that is 1987. So these are, and I'm going to go on the record to say these aren't my favorite cartoons from 1987. Because let's look at how old I would have been. I would have been 16 years old. So there wasn't any cartoon that was going to be the I've got to watch kind of thing. And I'm starting to think that I probably should have gone through and put the episodes that would have been on weekdays and not just Saturday morning cartoons, because I'm kind of running out of ammo of things that I know about. But there's a few things that I've queued up that I think are interesting nonetheless. I'm going to play the intros for us so that you can get your nostalgia vibe on. But I didn't really watch, I don't know, any of these. Um, Looking through the list, I think there might be, what, one? Is there one that I mean, I've already played for you the ones that I was really into. Uh, wow, I don't know if I've got any new ones that I actually watched. You know what? Let's just get into this and see where it goes. And we'll play it by ear. So the first thing I like to do at the beginning of all these episodes is the bumper. So let us just jump right into that and play a bumper.
Sword of omens, give me sight beyond sight.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Sur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready. Prepare for blast-off.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
This is 80s Reboot Overdrive Podcast.
We were dancing just like Swayze when Jennifer Grey had a nose. Oh, how I miss the 80s, but I'm too young to really know. Too young to know.
Oh my god. That is like so dated.
So like I said, this is 80s Reboot Overdrive. I am your host, Dave, and we are talking 1987 Saturday morning cartoons. I've kind of let you guys know what was going on with the whole thing about me kind of wrapping stuff up with 80s Reboot Overdrive, and this is another step closer to that. So 1987 is really just kind of getting us that much closer to the end of my involvement. Um, the one thing that I've got different to let you know is that I did reach out to uh, our leader Rob Southgate over at Southgate Media Group, and you know, very, I directly asked him via email, what are we? Is 80s Reboot Overdrive going to continue? And his answer was yes. He doesn't know exactly. He doesn't have a game plan at this moment, but it's going to happen. So I'm happy to say that this is going to continue. I don't know how long of a gap from when I get done with the 1989 Saturday morning cartoons, but I've got 1988 to go through before that one, and our finale episode with Rose and Scott. So I don't know what kind of time gap we're talking about from after that happens, which I suspect the final episode will post somewhere around the first week of October. And so I don't know how long of a gap between that time period and when more 80s Reboot Overdrive will happen and who's going to be the lead on it. So I have high hopes for you. I hope that there's stuff there that you're going to be able to continue to listen to. But yes, it won't be with me. And as I said on a previous episode, I love you, and I know that's uncomfortable to deal with, but we'll just have to deal with that. So, with all that said, let's jump right in. 1987, Saturday morning cartoons, spring of 1987. And as I said, some of these I'm really not going to have a lot of dialogue to talk about, but I'll play the intros anyway because I think some of you out there would have liked it. So, starting right at 8 o'clock in the spring, ABC would have had Wuzzles, CBS would have had Berenstain Bears, NBC would have had Kissifer. In the fall of 1987, ABC would have had Care Bears Family. CBS would have had Hello Kitty's Fairy Tale Theater. And NBC would have had Disney Adventures of Gummy Bears. At 8:30, ABC's would have had ABC's. Wow, I'm slurring. ABC would have had Care Bears Family. CBS Wildfire. NBC would have had Disney Adventures of the Gummy Bears. And then in the fall, we would have had ABC with Little Clowns of Happy Town. And CBS just gave a huge block to Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. And NBC had Smurfs. So let's stop there and play one intro and see what you think.
Once upon a dream, I think I lived inside a fairy tale where someone brave was lost, where some dark void was crossed, and I was tossed in my sleep. And did I see a magic horse called Wildfire, or was that the dream? Deep within my mind. So tell me what I find, or what I might become. If I could go where the dreams come from, if I could go where the dreams come
Okay, that was Wildfire. And honestly, I cannot recall having watched that at all. I have no memory whatsoever of Wildfire. I am curious to know who watched this. Um, I played it because I thought, you know, I looked at a few of these intros that of the cartoons that I really didn't watch, and I was like, you know what looks the most interesting? And Wildfire jumped out at me. And what's really cool about the intro is that you just have this predominant teenage girl that just looked like she went to this mystical dreamland. I don't know anything else about this cartoon other than it appears that Wildfire is the name of the horse that takes her to this magical dreamland. I don't even know if I'm getting that right or not, but it looks kind of really cool. So I'm thinking that it appealed to the female audiences that were 80s kids. I'm curious. Did you watch Wildfire? Did it do anything for you? Do you have any memories of that whatsoever? I'd love to know. I've got nothing to add there. And looking at the list, I was 16 years old. Honestly, I don't think I was watching much of Saturday morning cartoons, but to me, the thing that jumps out at me is Muppet Babies. I, uh, I, yeah, I would have liked the Muppet Babies. So, some of the stuff that I was kind of alluding to at the beginning of this whole thing was what am I going to talk about? What's the topic? And I really don't have a thread to put this all together. But I jotted down a few notes, which I rarely do. So we'll see how this goes. The first thing I want to talk about is podcasts that I listen to. I don't know if anybody even cares, but oh well, you're going to have to listen to me because I have a mic and you don't. Oh, that sounded mean, didn't it? So let's. The thing that I just discovered, the podcast, is West Wing Weekly. Now I don't know if anyone else out there is fans of the West Wing, and I know that it's becoming kind of popular now because, well, at least I think it's becoming popular because we have a lot of White House administration stuff going on, a lot of drama, and the West Wing Weekly, or not weekly, I'm sorry, that's the podcast, but the West Wing TV show, I think really appeals to us trying to get more information around what it would be like to be around a administration and around a presidential a president and see how things go. So the show is great. It's Aaron Sorkin, a fantastic show. And what's cool about the podcast is Joshua Molina, who is an actual cast member of that show. He participates in the podcast. And oddly enough, the guy is kind of critical about the shows that he's talking about. So they're going episode by episode, and he's putting a critical eye to it. It's not just a everything is great because it was a show that he was involved in, and it's great to hear. Another podcast that I'm a huge fan of, and I haven't seen really anything new from it, so I'm kind of concerned. But it's Will Wheaton's Radio Free Burrito. I I like that podcast. I like it a lot, and I don't see that much come out from it. He takes a lot of gaps between, he goes strong for a little bit, but then he fades away. And I know he's got a lot of other things going on, so I'm not, I don't hold that against him, but I just wish that, there was more consistency. And honestly, you may feel the same way about me. So, but nonetheless, Radio Free Burrito with Will Wheaton, there is a lot of this solo series he's been kind of the inspiration for. If you go back and you kind of listen to him and the way that he talks about his day to day stuff and things that he finds interesting, it's what's given me the ability to do either the micro reboot episodes or now the Saturday morning cartoons thing. I'm hoping that some of you are listening to me. I don't know. We're going to find out. Another podcast that I was listening to is called the Thomas Jefferson Hour, and I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys about this. It's like I enjoy listening to Clay Jenkinson do his portrayal of what he believes Thomas Jefferson would be like in modern day America, having a perspective of what it would have been like to be the president when he was, and then what it would be like looking at from his lens of our modern day life. But it's like one of those things where I have one of those where I don't know if I want to listen to it all the time, but I go through spurts where I'll listen to it for a few weeks and then I take some time off and then I'll rejoin it. And I don't know if it's because it's too groomed. Does that make sense? Too groomed. It's way too neat of a podcast because, like I said, if you're listening to it, in comparison, Radio Free Burrito, it's not as groomed. It's not as pretty. It's not as edited, and there's more of the human element involved in that. I'm not saying that the Thomas Jefferson Hour doesn't have a human element. It's just that it's polished, and it's very, very polished. While the perspective seems cool at the time, but every so often I'm just like, I don't know if I want to hear that. The other thing that I recently found, and I found this through Spotify, is called Reply All. Reply All. I want you guys to be aware of this podcast because this seems really cool. And the two episodes that I listened to specifically was around one where the main host was contacted by a group that was like a network scam thing where they were trying to say that he had a virus on his computer and then he had to pay money to clear the virus out. And then he, knowing that it was a scam, was really he started hassling this call center of people and trying to get more information about why these people overseas were like that and why they were trying to scam people. And it was very enlightening as to the industry of network scams, that people, why they do that, why they participate in those call centers that do those scams, and what countries it originates from, who's running those things. It's actually a two-parter of Reply All, and I want to say it was called Long Distance, but if you go to check them out, look for that podcast specifically. I thought it was very cool. I rambled there for way, way too long. Let's go back to 1987 Saturday morning cartoons. We are now at the 9 o'clock hour, and in ABC would have had Flintstone Kids. CBS would have had Jim Henson Muppet Babies. NBC would have had Smurfs. ABC would have had. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that we're going to fall of 1987? We're in fall now. ABC would have had My Pet Monster. And then that would have only lasted for 30 minutes. And then we would have had Pound Puppies. CBS, like I said earlier, Muppet Babies still would have been on. and then NBC still would have had Smurfs on. So that takes us through the 9 o'clock hour. You know what? Yeah, we're gonna stop there. Let's listen to this.
My pet monster, on him I can depend. My pet monster, a monster of a friend. He's big and blue and scary, but a friendly monster too. My pet monster, I love you. He's always playing scary tricks, but I know that's okay. Cause he's just having lots of fun in his own monster way. He loves to munch on garbage. He'll even eat the cans. If this sounds gross, please understand. He's my best friend. My pet monster. My very, very bestest friend. My pet monster. A monster of a friend. A monster
All right, that is My Pet Monster, and once again, didn't watch it at all. I know it was a toy, so they adopted that into a cartoon. I don't know what came first, was the cartoon and then the toy. Uh, and once again, just to let you know how I roll on this thing, I don't spend a lot of research time. I don't want to be the person that is looking up, or regurgitating all these facts and figures that I found on Wikipedia or IMDb and things along those lines. You can do all that yourself, right? Right? You know how to Google, do you? But anyway, I mean, My Pet Monster, did that thing, was it because of the toy, or what, did the cartoon come first? Or did they come out in conjunction? I know that one of my favorite cartoons that isn't going to be on this list because it wasn't Saturday morning cartoon was Visionaries, and consequently, the after cartoon TV shows. I'm thinking that might be a thing over at Bonsai Retro Club, uh, because I don't want. I was like, maybe I should expand this on for Saturday morning cartoons to the shows that I would have been getting into in the latter 1980s. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to. Uh, well, I mean, I do, but it's like I've got to cut off 80s reboot overdrive sometime, folks. And you've got to give me the chance to be able to start doing things over at Bonsai Retro Club. And if I keep trying to expand what I'm doing as far as like which cartoons to cover, and if I'm going to start doing the cartoons that were on after school, then this could go on a long, long time. But to let you know that I do acknowledge the fact that there was the after school cartoons that are definitely worth talking about, and I'm not devoid of that. Back to My Pet Monster. Didn't watch it. I'm curious if you did, what your thoughts were. Let me know. That's 80sreboot at gmail.com, or tweet to me at 80sreboot. So, what am I talking about next? What's my next topic? Netflix. The shows that I am watching on Netflix. Um, as I mentioned on the podcast section of this, I was mentioning that I like the West Wing Weekly, which means that I went through and I revisited a lot of the West Wing on Netflix. And just to let you know that I am a fan of the Martin Sheen era of the West Wing. So when we started going into the, someone else getting elected episodes, which I believe was Jimmy Smith, I kind of checked out. I want the predominant Martin Sheen episodes. And so I purposely don't watch the series end to end. I kind of get to a certain point and I'm like, all right, well, I'm done with that. And I revisited quite a bit of those. But another show that I am revisiting, well, you know what? Let me tell you the new show that I'm watching. It's the Defenders, and this is uh, the Marvel superhero thing that involves Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. I watched all of those series, and now they have them all together, and it's kicking butt. It is. I think I'm what, episode 4 maybe. But what I do is I don't binge watch the whole thing back to back to back because I want to pace myself. And I just watched the last episode last night, but I want to watch the next one tonight. And I've had the opportunity to watch it, but I have another show that I've watched before that I'm rewatching, and it's The Tudors. Now, if you never watched The Tudors, this is a great TV show. And I think it was, what, Showtime. And there is a lot of great drama around King Henry VIII. And the episode I'm at that I just finished, actually, maybe, let's say, an hour ago, was where his third wife just died. So I don't know if you're a fan of the Tudors or not, but I'm just letting you know that that is a lot of great drama and a lot of great uh, acting, and it's just interesting to see the evolution of King Henry VIII through the time period of all the different wives that he had. And I'm really curious about this, and I don't know if it's as factual as what was really going on or not, because I don't know if this thing would have been documented or not. But I would love to know how many mistresses that the king actually had, or the people that were in his main court. And these are the dukes and the people that would have been his council. How many mistresses did those people have? And I don't know if that kind of thing would have been documented anywhere, but I'm very curious to know the TV show how accurate it is, because it seems like all the king would have to do is just kind of give the signal to one of his people, and then they would arrange for somebody that he saw in court to go visit him and be his mistress. But back to the Defenders, what I do is I've been using the Tudors as kind of my teasing kind of show, because what I do is I tease myself with not watching the Defenders so that I have time between episodes so I can appreciate it a little more and drag it out. I like what I've been watching so far. Um, I I think I'm in episode 4. By the time that you listen to this, I might even be done. I don't know. Uh, but it's a great show. If you watch the other ones, I would recommend. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go too far in depth on that. I don't have a lot of the history of the Marvel characters, so I don't have a lot of background from all that. But I enjoy the roller coaster ride that Netflix is providing to me. So let's go back to Saturday Morning Cartoons, 1987. What hour are we on here, folks? Let's look at my grid. Once again, from indie80s.com. We are at what, 10 o'clock already? Wow, 10 o'clock. Okay. So ABC would have had Real Ghostbusters, and that would have only lasted 30 minutes, and that would have went to Pound Puppies. CBS would have had Pee Wee's Playhouse, and that would have went to Teen Wolf. Let's see, NBC, Smurfs would have been on for the first part, but then bled over into Alvin and the Chipmunks. In the fall, ABC had Little Wizards, and then Candlepin Bowling. CBS would have had Pee Wee's Playhouse, and then that would have went to Mighty Mouse, The New Adventures. NBC would have Fraggle Rock and Alvin and the Chipmunks. Let's see. Didn't I play Teen Wolf for you before? I don't know. Actually, all of those I feel like I've already played for you. So let's do this.
It's the Pound Puppy. Here's Cooler, Whopper, Nose Marie, Bright Eyes, and Owler.
We're pound puppies. We wanna go home with you. Please take us home.
Alright, that was Pound Puppies. I've got nothing. I really do. Once again, I know this is a toy. I know that this was something that people were into. As I stated, I was 16-year-old at this time, and it would have been nothing that I would have been into. So I'm hoping that did something for you, the listener. So maybe this episode is catering to the female perspective a little bit, because I did Wildfire and Pound Puppies. Not saying that you guys, the female listener, wouldn't be interested in other stuff. But I just feel that those would have appealed to a female perspective a little more than a male. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are, some dudes out there, their listeners, that would have been, yeah, Pound Puppies represent. But for me, I've got nothing, to be honest. So, let's see. The last topic before I jump into the final part of this whole thing for 1987 is, what did I say, the desk? I did, didn't I? So, let me tell you about my setup. When I'm at home, I'm not at home right now. Right now, I'm at the lake house. But when I'm at home, what I had was down in the basement, I had a mixing board. It's a small mixing board. And that allows me to hook up my iPad, my iPhone, to be able to play music that you'd be able to hear. And then myself as well, as I can record. I think most people know what a mixing board is, and I don't even know why it went over that like you didn't. Sorry. Not to demean your intelligence. But what had happened was that the basement kind of became a predominant place for my son to Xbox and watch TV. And I had a desk set up in the basement that at one time was kind of a remote work function, but in my current job, I don't have the ability to remote work as much as I'd like. But the I had also kind of the ideal world of being a more formalized podcaster, and that's where I had that set up kind of shape taking shape. And this the basement area, I didn't feel that I was getting the privacy that I needed to be able to podcast. So a lot of times I was going up into my bedroom, be able to close the door and podcast from there. So when I finally got the weird idea to do this whole Saturday morning cartoon thing, I'm like, you know what? I really need the mixing board. I really need to be able to use that in conjunction with creating these things, because then I can put these audio intros in at the same time and I don't have to spend a lot of time editing. This one is a little different because I'm at the lake house. I don't have the mixing board, so I'll have to edit those in, but that means nothing to you because you'll hear it as if I was actually using the mixing board because I'm good like that. Uh, but back to the whole thing is that I had this mixing board that I felt like I really wanted to use, and I had this. What I did was I found a plyboard that I put the mixing board on and the various equipment and left it hooked up for the most part on this plyboard, and it was off to the side of my side of the bed. And when I went to do these podcasts, I would bring the board up and plug everything in as far as like power, but everything else was plugged in to go and ready to go. And I would do this kind of in the comfort of my bed. And I got tired of seeing all this miscellaneous equipment on the side of my bed and on this board. And so what I finally decided to do was that I would replace my nightstand with this desk. And so what I ended up doing was I went to IKEA. I bought this is a $50 desk that fit in the small space that my nightstand did. But at the same time, it caused a little bit of friction in the house because I didn't get approval from the wife when I went to go buy this desk. And it's not that, it caused a lot of extra drama. It was just kind of you know, all right, you're introducing a new piece of furniture in our bedroom and you didn't run it past me, kind of thing. I just came home and I said, I bought a desk. And she knew that I was tired of the setup of this little plyboard thing. But it's just funny that, now that I have this little desk on the side of my desk where my nightstand used to be, and my alarm clock is there, my bedside lamp is there. So it has all the same functionality, and I had all these drawers of stuff in my nightstand that I never used. It just sat in there and collected dust. And now that I've replaced it with this desk that has the mixing board set up on it, and my microphone and my headphones, I've used it so much more. And I've taken the only thing that I really moved from the basement was the chair that was there in my desk. So now I have this full setup. And my youngest daughter, I'm told, now wants a desk of that size for her room. So I started a trend, and even though it doesn't match exactly with the rest of the furniture, it's close. It's brown, but it's there. It's now become a thing, and it's an accepted thing. But the reason why I wanted to share all that with you is just that you know I you know that was my progression of getting myself set up to be a little more professional of a podcaster. Does that sound right? There's a couple of things that I want to do on Bonsai Retro Club where I have the ability to play sounds, and I want Rose, Scott, and I to enjoy those sounds at the same time we're recording. And I'm hoping this will allow me the ability to do that kind of thing. We still have to work on the mechanics of all that, so it's coming along. How long did I spend talking about a stupid desk? I have no idea. You're bored with me. I'm sure you are. You're like, you know what? I've checked out, Dave. I've moved on. This is boring. Let's get through the last part of this, and then we'll talk about if I'm boring or not. So we're at what 11 o'clock in 1987. I think we are. 11 o'clock would have been uh, on ABC in the spring, Bugs Bunny and Tweety, and that would have went to Ewoks. CBS would have had Galaxy High, and then that would have went to Story Break. NBC would have had Foofer, and that would have went to Punky Brewster. In the fall of 1987, Candlepin Bowling still would have been on ABC, and that would have went to Sports. CBS Popeye and Son would have went to Teen Wolf, and then fall of 1987, NBC Alf, and that would have went to New Archies. So let us bring up this. Alright, that is the New Archies. Once again, I've got nothing to add. I didn't watch this at all, folks. I'm I'm playing intros that I didn't watch because I'm hoping that it helps you with your nostalgia factor. The only thing I really have to add there is that my daughter, 16-year-old, has watched the TV show Riverdale, which I think is on Netflix, and she highly recommends it. She tells me that I should watch it. Um, Honestly, I was hoping for the Sugar Sugar song uh, on that intro, uh, but obviously they probably want to have a separate thing besides the way it was back in the whatever it was 60s or 70s cartoon. uh, so that was New Archies. I've got, like I said, I didn't watch it, but I'd love to know your input. Did you watch that, and was it cool to you? So that is my review of 1987 Saturday morning cartoons. You heard me rant, or not rant. It's not rant. Me talk about random stuff, podcasts and Netflix shows that I'm watching in my desk. Um, am I boring you? You know, is my goodbye on 80s Reboot Overdrive kind of tuning you out? Are you like, I'm not really interested, Dave, in all this. I want you to be with Scott and Rose and you guys doing your regular icon thing or talking about your top three topics. Um, you know what? I don't know. Um, I'm going to continue to do this thing, but I'm interested. Are my solo shows boring to you? Uh, I I'm curious. I like to think that, or I don't like to think. I know that when I'm listening to these shows, and I do, I actually listen to the shows after they get posted, and I don't mind listening to myself, which is kind of, I don't want you to think that I'm narcissist, but I like to check back and see how I sound, and if I'm in my mind's eye at least somewhat interesting to you. I don't know if I am or not, but at the same time, I like to believe that the shows that I have co-hosts on or I have guests on are more significant to you. So, 1988 and 1989 Saturday morning cartoons. I'm sorry if that's the deal with you. If you're not interested in listening to just me being solo as kind of a last foray of Age Reboot Overdrive, but that's what I'm offering. Um, because Scott, Rose, and we now have our thing over at Bonsai Retro Club, and we are doing our thing there. We are recording new episodes there. That's our collaboration thing. So my my doing of my doing this series is just my way of being able to close out 80s Reboot Overdrive in my mind, being able to say goodbye to it. Um, and it's not, well, it is easy and it isn't easy. Um, and that might be a topic better for 1988. I don't even know if I'm going to remember when I do record 1988. But I just think that, there's something there that I'm, there's reasons behind me being able to say, okay, I'm done with Age Reboot Overdrive. And it's not, you know, ill will towards anybody. It's just that I'm excited about a new thing. But at the same time, I've spent a lot of time and energy on 80s Reboot Overdrive, and it's weird to be able to say, I'm just turning my back to it. I'm moving on to a new thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in a crossroads of how I feel of things. Um, but I'm excited for the future. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's play that outro. Let's say thank you for reliving the 80s with me and do this. We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s. Yeah, I don't think I have another. I it's like in my mind's eye, I'm like I'd love to record 1988 right now, but I don't know if I've got another episode in me tonight. It's not that I'm not interested in kind of wrapping things up and going further.
It's just that right now I don't know, I think I'm kind of done for the night. Um, so I don't know if 1988 Saturday Morning Cartoons is going to be one of those things where it gets recorded in a few weeks, or like next week, or next time I'm with my mixing board. Who knows? But right now, yeah, I'm kind of done podcasting. Um, and that's not to say that I'm like not loving the podcast. I just wanted to, I don't know, veg out for the night. Is that fair? Because it's almost 9 o'clock. Is it okay if I just veg out? Can I just Netflix for a while? Have another glass of scotch and veg out, please, please. All right, let's do that. Good night, everybody.